Hey friends, welcome back to the table, a church plant journey. My name is Trevor and I'm joined with my friend and co-pastor Ryan again. Welcome
Hello.
back. Episode
Hey.
12, I believe. We are at the
Yeah.
12th
Well,
disciple, right? We had planned to have this recording done a little earlier with a special guest that will happen eventually. We promise. It just didn't happen this week. We got to talking too long and ran out of time.
yeah, that's what happens when you're having fun.
This is very true. But nevertheless, we are continuing this journey. We will probably take a small hiatus as we are getting ready to get into some craziness. I think I mentioned this last episode, I officially have a job. So Monday, I will start my new job, which is going to be crazy and exciting and fun and awesome. Shout out to my background investigator. If you're still listening, we appreciate you.
And it's your birthday.
That's right. And it'll be my birthday. It's like the best birthday gift. Like nobody wants to work on their birthday, but when you haven't been working for 3 months, that's the best birthday
You
gift.
want to work on your birthday, yeah.
Amen. Amen. What about you, Ryan? Why can't we podcast next week?
I'm going out of town. I'm going to be going and visiting my family in Missouri. Yeah, for those of you who might not have listened to some previous episodes, right now I'm living the bachelor life. I'm living by myself. My wife and my kids are out in Missouri to be closer to my father-in-law, who has terminal cancer right now. So they're just trying to get as much time in with him as possible. So next week I'm going out to visit the family. It's also my son's birthday, which is right the day after Trevor's birthday. So should be good. Should be a good time. So I'll be out there for a week. And then, I think we just need to take a couple more weeks off. So we should be back towards the end of April.
That's right.
At some point, because we're still in the process of church planning. Honestly,
that is the truth.
And we want to kind of keep everybody in the loop on what we're doing, what we're not doing, what's working, what's not working, and everything in between.
Yep, that's right. So it's been crazy to think that we are nearly all the way through March already, and April is coming, and before we know it, we'll be here at our soft launch date. And so, like Ryan said, we're continuing. But before we go any further into church planting and what we've been doing there, what's new with you, Ryan? Like you said, you're getting ready to take off, but
yeah,
I mean, I'll throw you the softball. You got something to talk about.
Yeah, I got a job, another job. I fortunately or unfortunately, I guess, depending on your view, I haven't been unemployed the last couple of months. I'm still working at my sending church. Actually, up until this month, I was full time. So I was full time January and February, and then starting this month, I'm part time for the next until the end of May. And so I'm still working there, still actively involved in the congregation, but also I needed a job. So I got a job being a creative director at a great organization called Orchard Africa, which is a mission sending organization, and also just like an active ministry in South Africa. And those of you who don't know me, I have a heart for South Africa. I went to South Africa for a class I took in college in 2009. I love that place. My dogs are named after people from South Africa. The Springboks, the rugby team, are my favorite team. So I'm a big South Africa person. And then also it's all about things that I'm just passionate about. You know, doing photography, website design, social media, graphics, podcasting. So that's going to be part of my job as well.
There we go.
So, I'm really excited. It's a great organization. It's a great fit for me to work in the next couple of months, in the next, hopefully, a few years. So, yeah, I'm excited.
That's awesome, man. Well, good news all around. I think we've been creeping to this point of like big things happening for the both of us, which kind of give us this freedom to do full-time ministry without having to worry about that paycheck from the church, which we both have for the last long time. 7+ years for both of us have been full-time employees of churches.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first time in a while that we're stepping away from that. So I mean, it kind of goes right into our topic of finance, money. Never the fun conversation to have, right? I mean, churches joke all the time. They're like, all right, everybody, buckle up. We're going to talk about tithing. Like, don't get mad at me. It's just a 1-week thing. But
yeah,
finances, stewardship, salaries.
Let me just say that I think that's part of the problem is that we kind of make it a dirty topic whenever we talk about it.
Amen. I totally agree. Totally agree.
I think if it's a normal thing you talk about, it's not unusual if you talk about it.
Absolutely. So we want to try to be pretty transparent in this. And I mean, we're not going to give exact figures for every single thing, but we're a real church, Ryan. We spent some money this last couple of weeks.
In the last, we've spent a good chunk of change in the last couple of weeks for sure.
I remember talking to our church planning coordinator, Jeff, just a couple of weeks ago, and he kind of was like, yeah, you guys are like, we trust you. You can do it, but you're on your own. Like, you got to make these decisions that are hard, and you can't just turn to us for every single answer. Like, you're a real church.
Yeah. Pull on my big boy church pants.
That's right. But we want to talk about our plan going into this church plant and how financially we laid the foundations and the groundwork for the table. We'll just jump right into it. Right off the bat, our initial budget that we had kind of laid the framework for started in August of 2020 and ran through the entirety of 2021. So it's just over a year and a half that we built this budget for, and we know that 2022 and beyond, it'll be a yearly budget that we kind of cycle, but we had put forth $65,000 for our year 1.5 budget. That sounds like a ton of money, right? It is a ton of money. It does. Yeah, it is a ton of money.
For most churches, it's not that much money.
Yeah. For most, I actually think it's about, I don't know exactly the figures, but it's probably a tenth of the budget that I had worked with in the past churches, not just my last one, but the past few churches. It's definitely like not even a fourth. It's like a 50th of the budget, probably. I don't know. Is that smaller? Or is that bigger? I don't know. It's even smaller compared to the one of the churches that I worked at that has over $1 million budget a year, but they're massive, 2,000 plus people, 20 plus staff. It was just the numbers are crazy. And so as we were rolling into plant, we had to figure out, okay, how much do we need? How are we going to get that money? And what are we going to spend it on? Right. I guess kind of the three big things there. And so why and how, I guess, Ryan, first question for you, and then I'll kind of follow up here is, where did we come up with the $65,000 number?
Oh, man.
Do you remember?
A lot of it was guessing. No, we researched stuff. A lot of it was, seriously, this is a shout out to Cody, who was our guest a few weeks ago. Cody had already done, he's about a year ahead of us in the church planning process. And so he had done a lot of the work, and he just gave us his stuff and said, hey, this is what I used and you guys can use it too. And so we kind of took his budget that he already planned on and kind of modified it for our use. And also we did our own additional research and kind of guessing game about it. And then also in some areas, I think we did a pretty good job. In some areas, I think we were way off.
Yes.
We're figuring it out, and we're going through. So the way our budget is kind of broken down into for our ministry plan is we have kind of our pre-launch expenses, and then we have our monthly expenses. Kind of once we once we get up and going, and kind of the stuff that we're going to have to pay on a month to month basis, and um, things like like office supplies or
Digital accounts.
software
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah, so we can kind of go through it bit by bit. But I think one of the things that we've been trying to do is that we've been trying to keep everybody on our core / launch team involved in the finances.
Mm-hmm.
So we started in January, kind of giving a monthly update about where we're at financially, and kind of trying to keep people in the loop. Uh, we forgot to do it at our meeting last week, so I did like an 8-minute Facebook Live video where I kind of went over the numbers. We're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we've been blessed with both our district has supplied us with some funds, and then my home church, Mesa First Church of the Nazarene, they've been a blessing for us and giving us a good amount of money to kind of get the ball rolling on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
But then a lot of it is still we need to raise money, which we could talk about how we're doing that, and then also we need to get people who are committed to the table and who give on a regular basis.
For sure.
So yeah.
Well, let's start off with that first thing. So $65,000 is our budget. And that's, like I said, can be a small budget compared to some churches. Maybe you're at a church right now getting ready to launch and you're like, man, $65,000 is nothing. We're already thinking 150 plus.
Yeah.
We get it. Yeah. Money is kind of a spectrum here. But for us, for $65,000, how did we come up with the plans to raise that?
Yeah. So I think that's a great point that you just made about like kind of to a lot of different churches, like our numbers probably are really low. I've heard of a lot of churches that when they look to plant, they're looking to raise $150,000-$200,000.
Yeah.
But a lot of that is that people are raising their salaries as well as part of that. You and I, we've discussed this a little bit. We both feel called to be bivocational. Right now, we are getting a stipend from the church plant, which has been a blessing I know for both you and I, especially as we're looking to find work.
Yeah.
But I would love it to make it so where we didn't have to get a stipend.
Right.
We both feel called to be bivocational, in that we want to be a part of the community, and also we would love for most of the money from the table to go towards ministry,
right,
and not towards salaries.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
And that's just part of our vision of what the table is. And
yeah,
this,
I mean, you think about between both building and salary, many churches, that's well over 50% of their budget.
Oh, yeah,
again,
80%.
And not, and it's not, we're not digging on any church that has that. We both have benefited from that in so many ways.
Definitely.
And it's not, again, there's not a pro or a con, but specifically within planting the table, Ryan and I kind of took this position of how could we be better stewards with the finances that are given to the table, because every dollar raised is a gift. There is not a service that we are providing in exchange for funds. I know sometimes that can get a little convoluted. Sometimes when you think about churches, well, we're doing youth activities, we're doing sermons, we're doing these events, we're doing these things, and you give to support that.
You're buying a product,
right? But the church doesn't sell anything, right? Or at least, I mean, maybe they sell their cup of coffee, right? The choir ministry sells some subpar lattes to help raise money for their next choir concert or event. But it's not a business. It's weird. In planting this church, we've had to take almost a business mindset, right? To get up, we built this plan, this business plan, and we've set forth these goals and how do we raise this money. But when we come back to the finances, I think one of the big reasons, again, like I said, that Ryan and I stepped away from the thought of full-time salaries and this building, the building takes up the biggest chunk in most ministries until it's paid off. But how could we be best in our neighborhoods and communities? How can we utilize our money that is given to us because they believe in us and the vision to impact that. And so already we came into this again. That's part of the reason why our budget's smaller.
Yeah.
Is that right off the top when you knock off 2 full salaries? Because you think about it, I mean, how much do you think you're worth, Ryan? I mean,
Yeah.
a living wage, right? And
Yeah.
I know this is discussed in podcasts I just listened to this week. You know, we should pay our pastors living wages, but we, you know, it's like this weird, well, what's the living wage? Is it 30K? Is it 50K? I know pastors personally who make well over 100,000, and locationally what they do, again, things are different, times are different. I'm not a pro nor con here. I'm just spitting the reality of where this is at. Giving us that freedom. If the table paid you and I $50,000 each, we would have $165,000 budget, right?
Yeah.
Which is scary, because that means that our vision would immediately fall apart, being that we wanted the majority of our funds to go to missions, to ministry. And
no, definitely.
So I mean, we could talk probably on that forever, but so how did we got this figure, we figured out this plan, we're not going to take big salaries, we're not going to pay for a building. Now, how do we raise these funds? I mean, we, like you said, if you're not part of a denomination, that's totally fine. But we are so blessed to be a part of the Nazarene Church here in Arizona. And they sent us with 40% of our budget right off the bat. Before we had even been officially approved to launch, we had asked for that, and our district provided that. So right off the top, 40% of our budget was covered. And the rest, now 60% of this budget, how do we go about raising those funds, Ryan?
Well, part of it is from ongoing giving. So we've had people who are already giving on a regular basis, which is great. And this is something that Trevor and I were actually just talking about before we got on here. You know, we need to up our giving game as well, because we want to be examples to the table. But I mean, it's been hard when for me, I'm still technically employed at another church, so I'm still giving a lot to them. And then also just, you know, not having a paycheck. I think that's where part of it is like, yeah, we need to have the faith, but we need to, like, part of it's like, well, we need to also be wise with the money that God has given us. So part of it's through ongoing giving. We have people who have committed to giving to the table on a regular basis. So like, I know, like, my parents are giving, my brother and sister-in-law are giving, neither of who will probably end up coming to the table on any kind of regular basis. And then also, we've been blessed by my sending church, Mesa Naz, gave us a really good starting amount. I like to say, I don't want to say how much they gave, because I don't know if that's really a public number. But they gave us a good chunk of change, more than I asked for $0. So I wasn't expecting it at all. And it was a blessing for us in a lot of ways. It's allowed us to not, money hasn't been our main concern, at least up to this point. And then also our plan, because once again, we've been listening to podcasts, we've been reading books and hearing what other people do when they launch, when they plant new churches, is that they go to other churches and they ask for love offerings. They ask for them to support them for a year or two in some kind of way. And unfortunately, with us launching in COVID, that has been really difficult to do, partly because a lot of churches just aren't meeting in person. A lot of churches are hybrid. If they are meeting in person, they have some people in person, some people online. And also, like, we've talked to pastors at these churches, and they're like, we'd love to do it, but just know that, like, we want you, we want to give you, we want to bless you. But if we only have, a quarter of a room, we're not going to be able to, give you as much as if we waited a few months. We can get more people in, and we can give you. And then also, churches are just struggling to get by these days. We've had a lot of people who have been basically, a lot of churches have just told us, like, flat out, like, we just can't afford, like, we need every penny right now to, make our budgets, to keep the lights on, to make it so we're still going. So,
Yep.
which we understand as well.
Absolutely. It's been a journey. I mean, I totally sympathize with that struggle, because I remember back in March of last year when we had to shut the doors for the first time. The very first thing that we were all thinking about was, are we going to be able to come out of this? Will this
Yeah.
building exist? Will this organization continue post COVID? And luckily, at my previous church, it was the exact opposite. More people gave during the pandemic than even before, which was not the case for so many churches, obviously. One of the things that we honestly haven't found any success in yet, but I know that there is so many avenues to do this, is through grants, and through these companies like the Mustard Seed Foundation. If you don't know what that is, Google it, the Mustard Seed Foundation. We're behind the ball. We should probably be on that already. I think we've asked some people to help, but again, there's these organizations that believe in church planting. And in fact, actually, Cody just this week sent us this resource and said, hey, here's this organization that helps church plants by providing banners, materials, and promotion stuff for free for church plants. And we're like, that is so cool. We literally just bought all that.
And we can't return it. They won't take it back.
No, they definitely won't. But what's interesting is, and what we're discovering as we're planting is, you can set forth a budget and you can plan all these things out and be ready to spend all of this money, but sometimes you don't need to spend a dime. When you're church planting and you're ministry minded, and you find those other ministries like Text and Church, Planning Center, I can't even think of others, but there's so many ministry organizations.
G Suite, like there's a bunch of there's a bunch of, like, that's the other thing. Yeah, I've learned how to ask for freebies.
Yep.
Yeah, get if you're planning out there, if you're gonna go to buy something, ask if it's a church, if it's like a ministry organization, like where they market to churches and ministries, I almost guarantee you they have a church plant discount.
Always.
Even if they don't have
if it's not free, it's a discount. Like Text and Church, we got a few months free, and then it's literally 50% off for I don't know how long after.
Unlimited.
Yeah.
Basically until we're done.
It's wild.
Church Marketing University, that's another one we're paying for 90% off right now what they normally charge.
Yeah, and that has been so helpful into learning some of these new tips and tricks. Like one of the things that we totally went into a different direction without CMU is live streaming, right? Like they found that you want to just pick one platform and stream there. Where in the middle of the pandemic, we all bought the Restream platform and we streamed to as many platforms as we could to get our word out, right? And then you create like 20 different sub communities of people who watch because, well, I like Facebook, well, I like YouTube, well, I like the website, this kind of funny dynamic that I never even thought about, but CMU was able to, it was worth it right there. That what we paid gave me enough insight in that small conversation.
I was on one of the CMU, and they do these things and these calls on a weekly basis. I was just on a call with them today, and they were basically saying the same thing. Like, if you're going to pick one platform, Facebook's probably the best one because it's the one that's designed to create community. Mm-hmm. And so that's the thing is like, you want to be, if you're online, you want to be creating community. You want to be starting conversations. Anyway, that's beside that.
Beyond the point. Yeah. But we come around to it, realize that when you're planning and you're getting ready to go forth and to launch your church, that there are so many ways to save money. But one, you got to have the boldness to ask. And like Ryan was saying, like if it's a church or a ministry, ask about the church planners discount. But if it's anything else, ask about a nonprofit discount.
Yeah.
Because more than likely, as you're planting and you're getting ready to roll, you will apply for that nonprofit license. If you're planning within a church or denomination, maybe you'll share that nonprofit status. And so being able to give your EID number, I think is what it's called, or whatever the tax lingo is. Like G Suite, like Ryan said, is free for nonprofits, which
Yeah.
is an incredible platform that gives you everything that you would need, like within this Google software for free.
Yeah.
Again, you write that on your budget list. You're going to pay for these things, and then realize we're saving $150 a month because it's free for us now.
Yeah. Or Google will give you in ad dollars. They'll give you they give nonprofits $10,000 worth of ad spending per month.
That's madness.
Which, from what I understand, it's kind of like you kind of need somebody who like that's like their gig is that they're running your Google ads for you. It's kind of hard to manage just if you don't have somebody who's super familiar with the platform. But there's sources like CMU, like Church Marketing University. You can pay them a couple $100 a month, and they'll run your Google ads for you. And if you think about it, you're still coming out $9,000
Yeah.
ahead,
Right.
because you're getting $10,000 worth of free Google ads, and you're only paying like $200 for them to set them up and run them for you.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. And so, I mean, this idea of money can be daunting, but at the end of the day, it's really not. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Like Ryan said, like try to get yourself into CMU. See if you can get into that class with that discount for church planning, because there's some valuable resources. One of the things that I would say is there's some church plants that we've heard of and we've talked with that are just doing it. They feel God calling them to plant, and they're just going forth and doing it by themselves. And God bless you. I hope that you guys find tremendous success. But my advice would be to plant with that mother church, to be sent from a church, because one of the things that I love, Ryan said it already, Mace's had given us financial support, which was unexpected and amazing. Tempe gave people, which in turn is financial support because those people give.
Yeah.
But after the fact, we turn to those our mother churches, and we can ask for help. We can ask for Ryan. Just the other day, you were like, "Hey, can I print some materials?" And they're like,
Yeah.
"Yeah." And they're like, "How much do I owe you?"
Yeah. I offered to pay for it, yeah, like out of our account, pay them. And yeah, they've so far, it's been pretty, yeah, as long as like I'm not like, printing 10,000 pages at like full color, like,
Yeah.
like I printed off a few pages of labels, it wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So that's actually one of the things I think most church planners don't think about, is like printing costs is a pretty big deal. But yeah, we have a budget. I don't know. We can go through some of the stuff.
Yeah.
Before
Well,
we jump.
let's just talk about that idea of what did we think about that we had we were way under,
Yeah.
and what did we think about on our budget that we were way over on some of these things? Because I know we were just joking about how initially on some of our budget items we were not close at all to what we should have spent, and some of it is just like you just don't know the prices until you ask. They don't have them readily available to just get, and you don't have the time to just show up to a Fast Signs or show up to the community center or show up, go to these places where you're trying to find how much something is per month or per week or one time buy. So you make your best guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we could give, like, one of the reasons that we were so under on some portions is because no one told us how much that they spent.
Yeah.
So let's just be like on this end of like signage. Yeah. Let's just be real transparent on what we spent and what we're getting, so that future people, and again, if you got people that work in these areas, they can get you discounts. If you got friends, you got, maybe someone on your team works at Fast Signs, gets you that employee discount. I don't know. But Ryan, you got that number in front of you, right? We budgeted $600.
Yeah, I think
for signs.
That was way under. But like, so that was all underneath our marketing category, which I think just overall we've already blown past most of this stuff. But yeah, so like we budgeted $2,500, $250 for signs for website, which is about
that was just the cost for like the domain and the Squarespace, right?
The domain and hosting, yeah. That's about what we've
It's
paid.
$250 a year.
Yeah. And then yeah, we budgeted $600 for signs. We just spent, well, that's where this kind of gets fuzzy, because we also put in there advertising, so printed and social. So there's kind of like, so we just did an order from Fast Signs, where we're ordering. We got a banner, we got yard signs, we have some of those feather
Flags.
flags. They're gonna. We got tablecloths, which is a sign, but it's not a sign. uh, we got stickers
Pens. Yeah. Stickers.
to give away, which is, yeah,
Marketing.
it's kind of in the, yeah, it's marketing. And then pens, so you can give people pens. People always want pens. I think that was all we ordered from Fast Signs,
Yep.
and that was about $1,700 if I remember correctly.
Yep. And that was just for the Fast Signs purchase of those things.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, we've done our invite cards, or you're invited, and our door hangers, which we spent $400 on.
Yeah.
And so right there, you're pushing $2,500 on physical marketing alone. And that's not even to say you would
And
know
that doesn't include what we paid for in shirts.
Yeah, well, that's true. We just bought 200 shirts. And luckily this is a connection where I've known this guy Tim from Possibilities here in Arizona. He's in Tempe. I'm just gonna shout him out right now because he does good stuff for us. If you need shirts, Possibility. He's in Tempe, Mesa area. Does great stuff. Has always given us kind of a church planners discount, but we just spent $1,300.
I have it in front of me. It's just under 1,700.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like $1,600 on shirts.
86 and 83 cents.
Yep. And so, I mean, right there, we're going like close to $5,000 for physical material. And then we've had events since January, digital and physical events, where we have used Facebook marketing tools.
Facebook marketing. Yeah.
And 10 years ago, you could spend $100 and get 10,000 plus hits.
Yeah.
Easy. I mean, Facebook ads were awesome back then. You paid just a little bit of money, you got a huge return. Nowadays, you've got to know who your audience is, where you're targeting them, what they like, which that's weird. And Ryan, you're actually going through a bunch of training right now in this. So, I mean, cost wise, give me an estimate on what you think we've spent on Facebook, and then just give us a snippet on that kind of advertising and why it's important.
Yeah, we haven't spent too much on it. I'd say if I had to guess, we probably spent $250 to $300 on Facebook ads, which in reality is nothing. Like some organizations will spend $1,000 a day. You know? But yeah, one of the things that Facebook is great for is that it's the new town square, so it's where everybody's at in a digital space. So there's kind of, especially with COVID, it's been hard to find those places where people kind of gather, like in community spaces. Coffee shops used to kind of be like that in America, but not even that anymore. Like I went to a Starbucks the other day for a meeting and there was no inside seating. And so Facebook's kind of the place where you can pretty much guarantee 90% of people are going to see what you have. It's one of the few places where you can actually see how your money is spent. So you can get kind of a real-time ROI, return on investment. You can see how many people clicked on your ad, how many people watched your video, how many people took an action of some kind that you want them to. The part where it's been not as great for us, because we've been really on this, like, we want to target a neighborhood, we want to be very specific, is that it's designed for much larger audiences than what we've been targeting so far. But that doesn't mean that
typical church plant, right? If you're trying to plant a typical church, Facebook ads are amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically the issue that we've had is like we did the barbecue at your house last week, which we didn't talk about that yet. We should probably let everybody know how that went. But like we wanted to invite the neighbors. With a Facebook ad, you can't get that
Specific.
granular. You can't get that specific. The smallest you can really do, like in a physical, is you can do a 1 mile radius. That's the smallest they'll let you do. And basically, that's even too big for what we were planning on doing.
Yep. Because
So
I can't get my gate code to 150 people.
yeah. And which makes sense because we're trying to build small, intentional communities, house churches where people come and they can know everybody. It's not just I'm in a room with a bunch of people I don't know. So yeah, for more traditional church plants, I'd be putting all my money in Facebook ads if I were you.
For sure. Well, I'm looking at our last ad that we ran, which is our come and see live. So we did a live stream event of what we wanted people to come and see. And on this, we reached 3,300 people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what we spent. Maybe, it says right here, we spent $20.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
We did not spend a lot. And we had 626 people watch the video start to finish. It was a minute long, which isn't a long time. But when you think about the majority of Facebook, so when you're looking at Facebook video and it tells you like 14 million people have watched this, they count a view every 3 seconds.
I think it's 1 second.
Yeah, if it starts playing on your screen, regardless of whether or not you're seeing it, you are counted as a view. But the through play, so even though we had 3,600 or 3,300 people see it, like 600 people watched it and heard the content. And then it breaks it down into what the engagement was: link clicks, video views, comments, shares, and then literally to who watched. Between the ages of 13 to 65 plus, the majority of our audience for this video was women between the ages of 55 and 65. Which is great. Like it gives us an understanding of who is looking at our material and how we can cater to those people or not, or maybe how we need to change our marketing strategies. And again, we're looking at how to be the best stewards with our finances. So what we're learning is Facebook ads are good for these bigger events, for our community events, for our fourth Sundays, these events that we want big outreach. But we know that we're not going to spend much, if any, money on a Facebook ad for a typical house church night, for a low key in the neighborhood, which we're learning there's a new avenue next door, right?
Yeah. Next door is a great one.
On Next Door this last week, I posted on there directly to my community, and only the people within my neighborhood could see it. I put a disclaimer: only residents of my neighborhood only. I didn't even need to do that because literally people outside the neighborhood right next to me didn't get that notification, didn't see that post.
Yeah. And that's something that we need to, I admit that I need to kind of dive into a little bit more because I think it's a great resource. So I think we vastly underestimated our marketing budget. I think we overestimated our sound, our tech, our kind of AV. Budget.
Again, one of those reasons being that we're a part of a larger community of churches. Every piece of equipment that we currently have, and again, we don't know if it's going to be long-term. We might eventually purchase sound equipment. I hope we eventually purchase sound equipment that's lighter and easier to move. But we have an entire sound system in my garage from the 1990s, but we didn't have to spend a dime, and we can already host a big service with what we have. We have a old projector that will probably be out of focus. We have old speakers that probably will crackle, but it will work. If we needed to do it tomorrow, we have what is done without spending a dime. Again, being financially, looking at all of the gifts that have been given and spending the money properly so that when we get the next call from someone on our church line, we can go and buy them a meal or take care of them for the night. We don't need to worry about that finances because we're being good stewards.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, I mean, part of our logic when we were setting up the budget was I'd rather ask for more and spend less than kind of have it be, oh, our budget for sound equipment is only $2,000, and then come to find out, oh, we gotta spend like eight,
Yeah.
like, and be like, oh man, like we messed that up, Um,
And
some
honestly,
other,
that 14, I think we had $14,000 on there.
yeah,
That one we did really good research on. I remember you and I were
yeah,
going on to like Amazon. I can't remember the sound equipment website,
yeah,
but like the sound website, and we got like literally what we wanted.
yeah,
These two Bose upright sound equipments, $2,000. This Behringer X18 Air, $800-$900. Some microphones, $2,000. Projector, $1,000. Laptop, iPad. These things that like you don't think you need, but when you realize it, like when you're hosting church, especially if you're going to be doing a more typical model rather than this house church model, sound equipment's like the big one time up. Like you're
yeah,
going to buy that 32 channel board, that's going to cost you a penny. And then you're going to have to pay someone to wire it and go through all that. If it's a mobile station, like
yeah,
you got to find out where you're going to put it. If it's in big movable boxes, do you have a trailer? Do you have a storage unit? Like there's these things that you have to think before you go and purchase anything. You need to think and double check and triple check and then ask for other people to look at it to make sure that you've got the correct figures down. Because like Ryan said, for something as big as that, you could easily spend $50,000, depending on what you're looking at, what you're trying to do. Luckily, we're not paying for big lights. We're not paying for fog machines. We're trying to get 2 microphones.
yeah,
Some churches have 8.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's the big thing, and then we also, I think we probably over budgeted for our pre-launch events. We're nowhere close to what we budgeted.
Some of that is because of COVID.
Yeah, a lot of it's
and
because of COVID.
and realizing, I think a lot of our initial plant mindset was we're planting a church, and when we thought of church, we thought typical.
Yeah,
When we were thinking outreach events, we were thinking spending thousands of dollars at each event to get hundreds of people to just hear about it. Well,
yeah,
how many houses do we have, and how many people can we host? Does it make sense for us to spend $1,200 at a park outreach event when we only have space for 30?
yeah, yeah. No, exactly. Oh man, yeah. And then we kind of have our ongoing expenses that we plan on paying, insurance, office supplies, software, ministry supplies,
Curriculum.
curriculum. Yeah,
Yeah, there's just things that again, this is where our ministry experience has helped, because
yeah,
both Ryan and I have had to design and build budgets for our past ministries that, okay, how much are we spending on food? Like you don't think about it, but when you pastor, you go out, most of the time pastors pay for them, right? Like
yeah,
I know that was one thing in my previous church. Specifically, I over budgeted my food budget so that when I took students out, when I took adult leaders out or parents, whatever, I intentionally wanted to pay for them every time.
yeah,
And not because like, oh, I love free food. Everybody loves free food. But
yeah,
because it was something I wanted to set forward, knowing that, hey, I care enough about you that this moment in time, it's not a financial burden for your family. Because a lot
yeah.
of people, especially now in COVID, don't have those finances to go out. The
Mhm.
other thing that I always budgeted was we went on trips like 6 to 8 times a year. I'd have to
Yeah,
bring adults who would take vacation time. My
yeah,
adults never paid for a trip.
yeah.
I'm
No,
not, the
that's
only
right.
time they did was when we did this beach house experience, because one of the big events we didn't get into it. So we did like a sub, and I'm
Mhm.
like, adults, you can come. This is just isn't fair because you're literally going on a vacation. You're just watching some kids with me, but this huge, expensive beach house right on the ocean in Oceanside. Best
Yeah,
youth trip ever.
yeah. That was right before I showed up.
Yep, that's literally 3-4 months right before I got there.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's a lot of it, yeah, a lot of it's just, yeah, asking those questions of what do we think we need? Um Researching. I'm sure I'm sure this stuff is on the internet, like, hey, these are the things that we spend money on, the first beforehand. And one of the things that actually, like, that Trevor and I have talked about on a number of occasions is that the beauty of the table and the beauty of our model is that we could do this with $0.
Yep.
Um, we've met people who do this with $0.
Yep. Multiple people.
Yeah. Who just say, we're gonna have people over, we're gonna be the church, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Which, great, it works for them. Like and people are drawn to that. That isn't kind of where we're at. We've been blessed that we get to have. We've had gifts of funds. We have people supporting us. So yeah.
Well, last thing on here before we take this too long.
Yeah.
Salary. So you and I talked about earlier that we intentionally did not want to take full salaries from the table, but in full transparency, Ryan and I are receiving a monthly stipend for the year of 2021. Will that carry into 2022 and beyond? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. We haven't talked that far.
Yeah.
But the goal, and I think both Ryan and I had said, and kind of how we talk to future pastors, is the goal here is for you to be bivocationally, so that you are at the church. And hopefully, it'd be great to just have so much money that we could pay every single pastor something. But the goal is you're in the workplace where that is also your mission field.
Yeah.
Where you go to work every day and you are Jesus to those people just as much as you are Jesus to people as when you're pastoring. And kind of beginning to switch the mindset. And I think I felt really convicted this last year. COVID was weird, changed a lot of things, obviously, but I spent a lot of time in my office behind my desk. I made phone calls, obviously. I did ministry. I hosted live streams, but for the majority of 2020, my paycheck went to me sitting behind a desk.
Yep.
And I think that has been a part of church culture and ministry. Now, again, pastors are doing things. They're not just showing up on Sunday.
Yeah.
We are grief counseling. We are doing financial counseling. We are helping people. We are listening to people. We are writing sermons, curriculum, planning events. There is so much that happens behind the scenes. It's not just when I say that, do not hear me say that only pastors do is sit behind their desk during the week, because that is not what happens. But for me specifically this last year, I sat behind that desk many days in a row where I twiddled my thumbs, where I tried to plan something and nothing happened, where I was trying to build up some event and it was just, we're in a pandemic. And so by the end, I found myself on the phone with people for 45 minutes at a time. I would sit there and just listen and just be available. And because I couldn't get out of that office because of this pandemic. And so as we were planning forth this idea of where can we be Jesus in our work, where we get a physical paycheck from here on out, when I show up to work every single day, not only to the people that I work with and alongside, but every phone call that I will answer, I get to be Jesus. And I'm not going to be able to preach a sermon. I'm not going to be able to do the typical quote unquote pastor things, but every day I will have the opportunity to show people who Jesus is through my actions and my words.
Yeah.
And now, Ryan, where you're at, like, you get this great new job where you literally get to continue doing ministry all the time through these digital means, but there's going to be people that you interact with at your job. And because of your job, there will be more people that you get to interact with and be Jesus too.
Yeah. But also I'm this job, I don't think I mentioned it. It's not full time. I mean, it's more than part time, but it's not full time. And so I actually have some freedom that I can. So I just got my sub credential. I can sub 1 day a month or 1 day a week. And we'll see how long that lasts. See if it's something that I really enjoy doing, or if it's something that's kind of whether or not it gives or takes away joy. Um,
Yep.
but like that's what I've been thinking about. Is like, yeah, maybe like I'll sub one day a week. It's not a ton of money. It's $100 a day, but it'll help supplement my income, and it'll be an opportunity for me to be in the community, meeting people where they're at, and interacting with students, and yeah, being the hands and feet of Jesus, like you said.
Yep.
And maybe I'll be able to have those conversations about like around in the staff room of, hey, I'm a pastor at a church. You guys should come check it out, or
Right.
something like that, you know?
But there is something to be said about pastors taking a salary.
Yeah.
So one of the things that our leadership has said, one of the things that our DCPI trainers have said, it has been very apparent that there is value to full-time pastoring because it gives you your entire focus and planning, and every ounce that you have outside of your day of rest, which, let me reiterate that if you are pastoring or planting a church, when is your day off, and do you take it regularly?
Yeah.
Because I'm really good at that, but I know pastors who are not, who do not take days off, and shame on them, because there needs to be that day that you can be with your family, that you can stay home and get your mind off of the grind of ministry some days. But there's value in full-time pastorates, people who can come and their job is 100% their ministry. And one of the things that Ryan and I had kind of discussed is eventually someone might need to be full-time at the table. Some person, and that I say that not as Ryan or I. It might be one of us. It might not be. It might be another pastor we bring on, that we bring someone on full-time that can do executive work, that can do training, that can do design, sermon series planning, can kind of be this head that helps. Again, one of our goals is to have multiple house churches, which means multiple house pastors. So we probably need someone that has more time dedicated and devoted to the table to train and disciple those pastors so they can be effective in training and pastoring their house churches. And so we know long-term, there might be someone full-time paid at the table. Maybe not, right? Ryan, that might be your gig, and you might be working with Orchard Africa forever, right? You might be able to spend your 25 hours a week doing that and still be able to invest 40 hours, maybe not 40, but 30 plus hours a week at the table, where we might not ever have to pay someone that full-time, quote unquote. Again, what's full-time, right? Because when my first pastorate, where I was called pastor, I was making $100 a week.
And you're killing it.
Oh yeah, I was rolling in it. I think I spent more on gas money to get to that church. It was a long drive. But where again, each church will be different. And like I said earlier, I'm not digging or bashing on any church that pays their pastors more or less than some of the numbers that we've tossed around. But know that in your future church plant, that has to be a conversation that you need to have with your team. And I would say early on. Luckily, Ryan and I were blessed to have a team that brought it up for us.
And they made us, not made us. I think they convinced us that we should be paid something.
Yep.
And I am thankful for that.
Me too.
You're killing it. You're going to be making a killing working for the government compared.
At least I'll retire well.
But like, because I'm getting paid $1,000 stipend a month from the table. I was able to afford to take a job that pays less. That at an organization I believe in. Right. Something I'm passionate about. And which is great. It's a blessing. Like, I'm not gonna lie. But if I wasn't, then I would be looking for, my primary concern would be like, am I making enough money?
That's a scary thing to do when every night you come home and you're dreading the next bill. You're dreading how things, and again, like we have story upon story upon story, both Ryan and I, of God providing, right? Like
Yeah,
when you're faithful, when you're committed, and you are sold out on the vision that God has placed into your heart, God will provide every
definitely.
time.
I was telling my wife, I mean, partly it's because of the new stimulus check we got, but I told my wife the other day, like, actually yesterday, because yesterday is when we got our stimulus check. I was like, we probably have more money in our bank account than we've ever had before.
Mm.
And I'm making literally half the money I was making last month. And God has provided,
Yep.
and we're doing
We're gonna be fine.
we're
Yep.
doing as good as we could be,
Yeah.
and
Well,
so
like
yeah,
we never missed a bill. We
yeah,
always had food on the table. In the past 3 months when I didn't have a job, I mean, again, we're taking that $1,000 stipend a month from the table, which was a blessing.
yeah,
But Carson never had to worry about where his next meal was. That was never, he never had to even think about it because it was never a worry. Rochelle
yeah,
and I never lost an ounce of sleep over finances. Now, yeah, we did talk about them and there was some anxiety with, okay, what next? What if this doesn't happen? But
yeah,
right when I was like, hey, okay, April, we might get a little tough. I got a job,
yeah,
and I will have my first paycheck before we even had to consider those thoughts that we had talked about for one night.
yeah. And I mean, like so many things have just been lining up. Like we refinanced our house last month, and like we're saving tons of money on that. We're doing great. I mean, God has definitely provided, like seriously, like more than one, like in the last 5 to 6 months, we've probably had like money just show up out of nowhere, like at least 5 or 6 times, um, that we weren't counting on, that we didn't know we needed or wanted. Um, but yeah, it's just one of those things that He's been faithful this time,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's hard to kind of take that step of faith. I actually turned down a job a couple weeks ago, partly because it paid. It was, I mean, it was a decent. It was a stay at home customer service job, answering phones, helping people. But it was only $15 an hour, and in reality, I can't afford to live on $15 an hour. Um, at least with what we have now, to pay my bills and
Yeah.
support my family. Um, and so I turned it down. I said no. I'd rather wait and find something that I think will both pay me a living wage, and also something that I think that God has called me towards. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think that was a good insight for our listeners and future church planners about money stewardship, right?
yeah,
Let's go right back to what you said at the beginning. This should not be a dirty topic or a hard conversation. Money should be something that you are able to talk about with your team, with your church, and going through this understanding of stewardship and why we do it is good. And
yeah,
so don't, we can make the jokes, but don't hold them as gospel truths.
yeah,
It is okay to talk about money, and it is okay to be vulnerable in these moments and know that when you are in the center of God's will, He will provide.
yeah,
It might not be every want we have, but every need we have. At least for Ryan and I, time and time again, not even with the church plant, but ministries prior, life prior, God has provided. So with that being said, we brought it up, but we didn't actually talk about it. So last week was our community barbecue, right? How'd you think
yeah.
that went, Ryan?
I think it went great. I think it was what it needed to be. Um, the we the ice cream machine didn't work. Yes, we had an ice cream machine. uh,
I have
we,
so much ice cream in my fridge, my freezer right now, like literally 12
oh,
bags
oh yeah,
of that
I was told that
sauce stuff.
I was told I needed to take some, but I forgot.
It's fine. It's that you would need to this week and then let it sit in your freezer when you go away.
um, we didn't have. I mean, I'll say it out. Like we didn't have as many people as we had hoped, but I think we had the right people. I think
Yeah.
God sent us the people that we needed for that time. And I think people drove by and they saw what we were doing, and they hopefully they had a good feeling about the fact that we were open and inviting, and it was we were there for the neighborhood. So
Yep.
what do you think?
I as I kind of look back on it and reflect, the pandemic is still a real thing. Luckily,
Yeah,
our numbers are um, really low and
yeah,
what they were just a few months ago. They're not the lowest they've been, obviously. It won't be that way till this is
yeah.
over, but
I got my shot.
yeah,
Oh,
more vaccines are rolling
yeah,
out. People are being safe still, and we provided this fun, safe event where the biggest thing that I am seeing over and over and over again is um, people see our children, they hear our children, and that in itself, I believe, is a very welcoming place for families to join. Now, not everybody likes kids, right? Not everybody
yeah,
has kids. Some people, they grew up, they had their kids have kids, and they're like, I like seeing my grandkids once a year.
yeah,
But I think overall, when we had cornhole going, my son and Jeremy's son were out there shooting hockey pucks in the middle of the street. Like you said, we had people riding by on their bikes, walking their dogs. We had people driving by. We showed the neighborhood that we're here, that they're welcome,
yeah,
and it's just, again, it's you provide that space, that opportunity, that continually just continue to do these things, and people will see. One of the stats that I had read a couple of years ago now was when someone shows up onto your campus like 7 times, the first place they'll go to in a crisis is your church.
yeah,
Not always, but typically in a crisis situation, a moment where they need God, right? They'll go to the place they've been the most. So seven, that's 3 years of Christmas and Easter's, right?
hmm,
Well, we provide this experience in our driveway, in our front yard, at the park, where the table is here and you are welcomed. I think we'll hit that 7 number. It's not necessarily this building, but it's this reminder over and over again that we're here. I have my yard sign still out in front of my house. I don't know if I'm going to get an HOA ticket or something like that. Maybe I can only put it up once a week or something like that. But just be able to provide these spaces. I mean, first in this neighborhood, but I can't wait till we do this structure of door hanger, flyer, barbecue, outreach, church is happening in
yeah,
this neighborhood and
yeah,
that neighborhood and that neighborhood. And to provide these spaces where people know that house is a safe place for me and my family to go. And it starts with these barbecues that only a couple people show up to.
yeah, yeah. And we have to remember too, like our our goal isn't, especially with what we're doing with house churches, like our goal should never be how many people show up.
Yeah.
um our goal should be, how many people are hearing the gospel, how many people are being discipled.
Yeah. How
um
many people were loved that showed up?
yeah,
Did every person that showed up feel loved?
yeah. We had Trevor and I had lunch with a guy a couple weeks ago, who's doing house church, and he's basically said that like one of their goals was just to never count.
Mm.
And the more I think about it, the more I kind of hope that that's how we are at some point.
Yeah.
A lot of it is that we are part of a denomination that we have to report numbers to, but I'd love it to get to the point where we just like that just wasn't even. Oh yeah, I didn't even really think about how many people came. We were there. We did what we were supposed to do.
Yeah.
We were faithful to what God called us to do, and that was okay. You
Yep.
know.
Yep.
So
Well, the next thing that we have is our come and see in person, not live streamed event. I am so
yes,
thankful that we're not live streaming this. Like,
yeah,
I was thinking about it. Maybe we record it just like the worship sermon part. I don't know. Maybe not. Definitely not the Q&A, but
yeah, maybe,
just this idea of being able to kind of two-part, invite the people again in my neighborhood to come and see what the table is about, what house church is, and two, to specifically ask our launch and core team to invite their friends that they have talked to the table that they think could be house hosts, that they think could join this table in some capacity, to invite them to catch the vision.
Yeah.
You know, we found so often with this model, you talk about it and people go, so it's small groups, right? And you're like, no, yeah, I'd be more. And they're like, well,
Yeah.
like, I don't like you talk about it, talk about it. But
Yeah.
until they see it, until they interact and become a part of it, they just don't. Sometimes you can express it well enough, but I would say every single time that we've done house church and people have been a part of house church,
Mhm.
when they catch the vision,
Yeah.
and when they truly go, gotcha, this is different, I want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And you know, we're not always going to have that success with people like that, but
Yeah.
you know, when think about every mountaintop moment, every conference camp, you had to be there, right? You
Yeah.
can't talk about how cool camp was. You can
Yeah.
tell it, but it's just never the same as you had to be there. And so
Yeah.
providing these moments that they're I like what Joel, one of our core team members, said, kind of our super soft launch, super squishy
Yeah.
soft launch, this pre-soft launch that we're getting these people excited about it. So what's your expectations, if you have any, Ryan, for this Sunday, the 21st of March, for our third come and see? Crazy. We're on number 4
Yeah.
already.
I'd love to get, I mean, this is like, I just talked about not wanting to count, but I'd love to say if we got some new people, like if we had 3 to 5 new people, I would be ecstatic. Um, I think the goal of this is to bring in new people
Yeah.
to invite them to be a part of it. So, um, so, yeah, the whole idea of like, yeah, we need to change our mindset of what we're doing. But that's the thing, is like, because we are pre-launch still, our goal is kind of getting the word out right now. So
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to do. So yeah, if we had, like I said, if we have 3 to 5 new people, I think that'd be great. So
Absolutely. I'm in the same vein. I also one of the things I always, I don't know how to again, you just have to come and see. But
yeah.
I love house church, and I love the community that provides. And I guess maybe it's not an expectation, but I'm just excited and I am ready to have
Mhm.
church.
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, we like to be transparent here. If I'm transparent with you guys, outside of kind of our retreat weekend and our come and sees, there just has not been that desire to go do church, to play it up, to have this experience. I
Mhm.
just going to this building where there's a light show and a worship and sermon just has not been something that I'm attracted to right now. But every time that we talk about house church and the community, the intimacy,
Yeah.
sharing a meal and sharing life, like I love when we have a hard night and we cry and we suffer together. I
Mhm.
love to celebrate. I can't wait. Like, I'm going to be celebrating this Sunday that you and I have new jobs.
Yeah.
God is providing that area. You know, we don't need to. There's not much that I can think of that we need to complain about this
Yeah.
time. But I'm
Yeah.
also gonna, if people come with their heartbreaks, their pain, like I'm gonna enjoy those moments. Like, maybe enjoy is not the right word, but I'm gonna share those sorrows with them.
Yeah.
And secret, but like we're gonna celebrate a little girl's birthday that day.
Yeah.
That's gonna be fun to like
Yeah.
give her a little surprise. So,
Yeah.
if you're listening, I'm sorry, we just spoiled the surprise, friends.
um, yeah, and you know, our key verse that we keep talking about that I don't have memorized, and I'm bringing it up right now because I can't remember what it is, but uh, it's John 13:34 through 35. A new command I give you: love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. Yeah, if we come together and we love each other and we're genuine and we're faithful, I think that's all we can hope to do.
Yep,
And if we get a couple people who come and see and want to be a part of it, that's awesome.
I agree.
So
All right, well, let's wrap this up as we do with our prayer request. Ryan, how can we pray for you and your family, through these next couple of weeks as we're taking a little break?
Man, I got like 10 really busy days ahead of me. I mean, I'm going out of town, but like I can't wait to like spend time with my family and my kids. But it's one of those things, like my wife has told me, she's like, yeah, we're gonna spend time together as a family, but also I'm gonna just leave you with the kids a few times because I haven't been around to do that the last couple of months, which is great. I'm excited because I love my kids, but I probably won't get as much me time. So that, and then also like I'm gonna go shoot a wedding this weekend, which is always fun, but it's always hectic and stressful in different ways. And then traveling and all that stuff. So pray for that. Pray for our come and see. Pray for pray for the table for sure.
Yep, for sure. I think obviously this new job is exciting, but prayers that I can maintain that new balance of full-time job and learning so many things in such a short period of time that my brain's just going to be able to handle it. I'll be able to multitask well. Pray for my wife specifically, as this transition is going to be probably rough on her as much as me with, baby Carson and trying to figure out the new schedule. Like I will not have consistency in my life for probably 3 months, which might stink, but it'll be worth it in the long run when I get that consistent schedule and I'm only working 3 or 4 days a week. We're building for the future here. And so you kind of got to grind and you got to stretch those muscles. Might sound silly, but the next 2 weeks, so this Friday and next Friday, we have our CrossFit Open competition. I'm not competing like at a high level at all. I'm not doing the prescribed RX workout, but I'm scaling it. And I did really, really well this last time. Actually, in our specific gym for the scaled men, I came in 3rd place, which was, an achievement from a year ago. My back hurt to walk around the neighborhood. Like I walk around the neighborhood 1 block and my back hurt after. Where now, like, I'm putting up big numbers on lifts and stuff. And so just that I stay healthy and safe, but that I'm able to compete. I got two weeks left, and then I'll just go back to the normal grind of CrossFit. But and then like Ryan said, my birthday is this Monday, and my son, he turns 2 in April. That's crazy. My sister gets married this year, and it's just like one thing after the next while we're transitioning, while we're planning. I think time management. I think I said that a lot in the past episodes, but time management. That I know I can balance everything. So.
One of the things that I've learned in my life, the more times, like the less time I have, the better at time management I get.
Right.
So like the less
time you can waste because you have to do things that have to be done. Yeah, I feel you.
My busiest semester in college was when I got the best grades. Like when I was RAing, I was working on staff at the newspaper and the yearbook, and I was full-time student, like 18 units, and had a girlfriend, and like that was the time when I had the most, like I was like the most efficient.
Yeah, I feel you. I can definitely agree, because these last 3 months have been a semi-sabbatical in that I play video games every day. Yeah. I haven't played video games every day since college. Even then, probably high school. I don't play a lot, but like at least an hour a day. I haven't been able to do that. And that's an hour wasted that I could do doing something else, I know. But next week will no longer be playing video games every day. That is a fact.
I have a hard time playing video games because I know I'm not being productive.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need it. Sometimes you need that break. But I couldn't tell you the last time I played video games every day.
I will say it's one game. I've been playing StarCraft, which is very intense, like fast-paced chess.
2005 called. They want their game back.
Hey, it came out in 2010. StarCraft 1 came out in 98. I've been playing StarCraft since 98. Don't judge me. Friends, it's been good to be with you as always. Like, follow, subscribe, leave us those feedbacks. We didn't read it. All right, here we go. I'm doing it right now. Apple Podcast.
Oh, yeah. While you're doing that, please check out the other shows on our podcasting network, the Millennial Pastor Podcast. You can find those other shows by going to the website. I think it's just the millennialpastor.com. I know that Josiah, who's in charge, he's constantly trying to find new podcasts. He's I just had a discussion with him and another possible host this last week. So yeah, things are happening. Check out The Pastor's Wife, which is by Rochelle Trevor's wife. A Plain Account, which is by a buddy of mine, Ben, went to seminary with. Where they go through the lectionary every week, and then also the flagship, the Millennial Pastor Podcast. So, you got that review?
I do. So the Jingle Jangler. I don't know if that's a real name or just something. They said
I would hope not. I hope that's not their real name.
It's not their real name, but their internet name. But they said unique and intriguing podcast. These guys are taking you along as they figure out how this church planting thing works. Not only that, they're planting in a very unique way while in the midst of a pandemic. Super cool. Thank you, Mr. or Mrs. Jingle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you guys leave us a review, we'll try to read them on air. If you write your actual name, we'll
call you out.
We'll call you out
at your Twitter, at your Instagram.
I actually had somebody yesterday reach out to me, never met, send me a Facebook message asking about website stuff, and heard about it on the podcast.
Nice.
So yeah, people are listening. It's hard to believe.
It is, but hey, we're legit. We're a real church. We're a real podcast.
Yeah.
That's how it works. As always, friends, you can like and follow us on all of our socials at The Table Naz, on our website at thetablenaz.church. And if you specifically use Anchor, you can use the messaging feature to send us a voicemail, and we can listen to it and respond to you. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, just a reminder, we'll be taking a couple of weeks off. So we'll be back towards the end of April with season 2. Part 2, I don't know.
Who knows? I don't know. I just said, hey, let's stop at 12 because that was the disciples' number. All right, friends. We'll talk to you soon. I appreciate you. Thanks for listening. As always, this is Ryan and Trevor, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.